morning for those of you on closer to the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you from Central or East Coast, or I think maybe good evening if you're dialing in from Europe, or happy Friday if you're calling in from Australia, perhaps, or it's overnight. But we are so glad you're here. Welcome to conversation about career branding and career transformations. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Career Branding for Event Professionals. We're going to have an awesome conversation with and presentation from Jackie Rafter, founder and president of Higher Landing Inc., who's on the screen. We'll introduce Jackie in just a few minutes. But thank you so much to everyone for being here. My name is Lisa Marks. I'm one of your ILEA International Board of Governors. I'm joined today on screen by Alexandra Long from our ILEA headquarters team, as well as Dustin Westling, one of my fellow Board of Governors, and the ILEA International Secretary and Treasurer, who will join me in moderating a conversation Q&A with Jackie Rafter shortly. Jackie Rafter, a new contact and colleague of mine. I'm so excited to be here introducing you. Thank you so much on behalf of the community for giving us your time and your expertise here. Jackie Rafter, MBA, is the founder, president, and CEO of Higher Landing Inc. So if you're curious to know more as you sit here and listen, visit higherlanding.com as their website. Jackie is a visionary career transformation strategist and entrepreneur with a passion for helping people discover and live their purpose. As founder, president, and CEO of Higher Landing, Jackie helps professionals, executives, and globally known athletes to help them transition and transform their careers. The proprietary career transformation methodology that she has pioneered at Higher Landing is being broadly adopted across professions, particularly in disrupted industries as they go through significant disruptive change. There is no bigger industry that is going through disruptive, significant change than ours. And so maybe that's a big statement, but we are all going through massive change right now. We didn't choose to come to this crossroads, but here we are. Jackie holds a dual degree from the University of Calgary with an MBA and Bachelor of Education in French. Amazing, and is a champion of helping people live fulfilling, purpose-driven careers. I think we can all take a nod out of this book. I know that when Jackie and I first connected, I think we had a 25-minute conversation, and in that amazing conversation, I took away 5 or 6 notes for myself on how to talk about yourself, on what value you actually bring, and I think all of that new, modern, fresh way of thinking about how we speak about ourselves and what we ultimately want will bring in greater opportunities for each of us, whether you're shopping for a new role or not. So I'm really looking forward to this. Jackie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. My gosh, I can certainly see that that you are an event professional on steroids. I've never seen an online event organized as well as this one.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm so glad to hear that. And Jackie, we're really looking forward to hearing from you. So take it away.
Thank you so much. So welcome, everyone. I know that there is a lot of talk about career transition, career transformation, career management, and a lot of people don't really understand what that means. In my world, what it means is to help people to build purpose-driven careers. So I've been doing a lot of talking about how to manage careers in this phase of your post-pandemic career. So, I mean, there's no question that we are in the midst of disruptive change right now around the world. And how we get a job, how we manage our careers, how we live our lives has been transformed forever. And that is something that we just have to get used to. This is essentially the new normal. And I just, before we get started, I just wanted to get a sense from you as to what you feel has changed most in your careers since COVID started. Would anyone like to share? I don't know if you guys can speak. I'm not sure.
You'll start to see some responses come up in the chat. Do you want me to? I can read them out.
Sure. Why don't you just read them out?
Yeah, sure. So I won't list any names, but I'll say, although the names are public, but no work, income, lost my job, little to no events in person, all virtual / no in person, no events. All of my events and my job have been eliminated. The ability to meet clients in person, great one. Ended, question mark, winky face. No longer feel like an expert. Yeah, that's interesting. Job loss, lack of in-person events. Job has been deleted, no work, no events to shoot. So probably a photographer. Switching to run other programs in the org, not events. Interesting. No events, being laid off after 15 years in business, having to start again. Many changes to addendums. Digital events are booking last minute and canceling quickly. No purpose or direction. Jobs eliminated. Events will not resume nearly the same way when they can. Wondering if I need a new career. Interesting. No work, grieving the loss of identity. Lots of grief, Jackie. I certainly felt that too. Change for position from director of events to marketing director. Frowny face, so not necessarily a change that was wanted. Entering the industry now halted. That's an interesting one. Pressure to pivot into a very crowded space. Able to be more present. Feels like maybe a positive win out of this. Worried I will be laid off at any time and not sure how to be an expert in a virtual world that I'm not familiar with. Postponements to 2021. Missing my purpose. Zoom burnout, totally get it. Missing the in-person connections with our event industry nationally, locally, and internationally. That's a big one. Micro events and zoo-wide events only, maybe a zoo professional. Looking at more lateral moves into program or project management, having to pivot and learn new tech platforms for virtual events. Seniority and experience didn't matter in some job cuts. Data to support events and needs to meet business objectives. What are we qualified to do if not in the event world? Great question. Learning to flow, hoping for the best, planning for the worst, looking for other industries. New policy creation, legal talk, client management with multiple clients. The unknown, should I wait for it to come back or move on? What else are we qualified to do? Question mark. Knowing we won't get, one last one, knowing we won't be going back to the same world of events industry that we left when everything paused.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Lisa. Wow. So your industry is not immune to what's happening in the world, but nor are a lot of other industries. So I am based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, in the midst of the, this is a very energy-based city. And I've seen thousands of energy professionals lose their jobs over the past, say, 5 years. So when we kind of look at the big picture over the past 5 years, and I know in different parts of North America, the pain points slightly differ, whether they are economic, personal, social, geopolitical, what have you. But there's no question that careers and how you manage your careers are in the midst of change. And so when I look at North America, we started to see the collapse of commodity prices, investment capital drying up in certain industries, and a lot of industries being tipped on their heads. And if that wasn't bad enough, then we started to see the proliferation of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, all colliding together to create what we thought then was a perfect storm. But now, enter 2020, and we're living in the midst of a pandemic. Who would have ever thought? So a lot of people feel that they've been hit by a bus, and their careers have been impacted exponentially. So the one thing that I want to tell you is that there is a future after change, and it can actually be better. But hope is not a strategy. So if any of you are just crossing your fingers, hoping that your old job is going to come back, it may, but even if your job does come back, it's going to look very different. So when we look at the big picture, we've seen 2 years of digital transformation occur in 2 months. Businesses all over the planet have been forced to automate at record speed, and we have seen, and we're living in, unprecedented job market security. Some of our jobs have become redundant. A lot of people are working part-time, they're working on reduced hours, they've just given up. And so I'm going to take you through a process today that might give you a little bit of direction going forward with respect to managing your own careers. So when we look at how job search has changed, specifically because of COVID, it's becoming far more competitive. And the reality is that you can no longer rely on your hard skills. And I know that a lot of you here have tremendous event management skills, but are they in demand right now? And on top of it, the few jobs that are available and in demand are becoming very competitive. So they're becoming fewer of them. So unless you are at the top 10% of your game, you are not going to probably get back to work in doing what you were doing. So unprecedented levels of uncertainty requires that you lean on those things that are more stable. And the fact is, the only thing that is stable is your value. And so in 2020 and going forward, the one thing that has changed tremendously has been the fact that you have to understand your value and take that to market. You can no longer take your hard skills to market. And that is because it is far too competitive. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of an exercise to help you figure out what that is. It's interesting. I've been doing this work now for several years. And the one thing that I find really smart people struggle with is trying to identify their value. And that's because they've never had to look at themselves that way. You know, they've said, okay, well, listen, I'm a marketing professional, I'm an events professional, I'm an engineer, I'm an accountant, whatever. And then they take those things to work, to market. You can no longer take those skills. You can know, I don't care, the market doesn't care what a great pedigree you have, how many years of experience you've got, where you worked, all the fancy jobs that you have. You have to be able to translate that into value and be able to articulate how will someone's life be different with you in it. What is your secret sauce? What is the one thing that makes you stand out in your industry? So the process we take people through is very much like peeling back the layers of an onion. And getting to your value is not necessarily an easy thing, but it's extremely rewarding. Probably one of the most important gifts you can give yourself, especially now in this time of change. So in terms of the job market, we're seeing a lot more diversification. People are, I'm just trying to fiddle with my screen here. Give me 1 second. My mouse doesn't seem to be wanting to work. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
No problem. Maybe try your forward button.
Yeah, no, I've got it. It's okay. Thank you. So when you look at how work is going to change post-COVID, industries that are relying on the physical presence of people are going to take longer to recover. So that includes your industry. So the arts, entertainment, live events, hospitality. I was speaking to a friend of mine who's an executive with the local professional hockey team here called the Calgary Flames. And he's really nervous because he's saying that unless they can get live audiences back into the arena, they might not survive. So they are not immune, just like a lot of industries are not immune. So we just have to do things differently. Jobs that you can't outsource to a machine are going to grow. So we're talking about service jobs, anything creative or highly technical. Service orientation and collaboration, of course, is going to rise in importance. And the reality right now, and this is actually a really exciting time because we can no longer solve problems alone anymore. Technology has changed things at such rapid speed. And the way we do things is changing so rapidly that there's no way that any one person is going to find the answer to a problem. We have to be able to work together. So one of the things that we have to understand is about the importance of actively looking for ways to help other people. So ask yourself, what have you done to help someone today, this week, last month? And so this is something that will actually make you feel better and help you manage your career because it's going to illustrate your value. So there's a fellow, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with him. I just love him. He is a marketing professor from NYU. His name is Scott Galloway. And he talks a lot. He's one of the, if anybody is interested in kind of future trends with respect to work, throughout North America, please watch his watch some of his videos because I think he's a real thought leader in that regard. I know I get a lot of my material from him. But one of the two industries that he's saying COVID most is higher education, and that's because technology is increasing enrollment. Zoom is replacing live classes. You're going to see a lot more shorter-term programs and more online education. So there's also going to be a mass resurgence in telehealth and healthcare. We've already started to see that. The other thing is that companies now are more open to new ideas. And that is the case coming out of any kind of recession. So something to remember is that coming out of a recession like right now is one of the best times to start a business. So when we look at some of the most successful businesses in the world, I'm just thinking Instagram and Uber off the top of my head, they were started in a recession. So the opportunity for you is that there are going to be more online event job opportunities. So my advice to you is to start getting used to technology. Every industry is in the midst of disruption. When I look at my business, we had an office in downtown Calgary at 4,000 square feet, and people were coming to us face to face, in person, and that's how we taught, the old-fashioned way. And when COVID hit, we had to turn on a dime. We had to innovate. Our business was disrupted. Our lives were disrupted. Our brains were hurting because we had to learn all of this new technology, and we had to learn it in the span of about 2 weeks. And otherwise, our livelihoods were at risk because it was illegal in our case to have anybody come into our facility for education purposes. So we had to pivot. And we had to transform the way we think, the way we do things. I had to learn, and I'm not a digital geek by any stretch, but it was just part of the evolution of what is happening on the planet. So my advice to you is that if you want to stay in your career, you're going to have to become more comfortable using these online tools like Zoom and some of the others, and understand how to teach others to use them as even potentially revenue generating opportunities. So when people say, okay, well, what should I do? My advice to event professionals would be to propose to organize and market an online event. So who can you do that to? And you have to be, there's 3 things that you have to understand about this new market. You have to be smarter, you have to be more strategic, and you have to be proactive. And you can no longer just rest on your laurels waiting for the phone to ring. Those days are gone. And so what can you do to serve someone? So a lot of you people have tremendous levels of creativity. So think of some value that you can add to an organization, maybe that you've never worked with before, and think of how you might be able to make them money, improve their brand, et cetera, and offer to do an online event for them. As well, think about collaborating with someone. So what can you do now to work together? So rather than competing with each other, how can you work together and maybe propose some of these ideas to businesses that you've never worked with before? Trust me, businesses themselves are struggling to survive. In our province, there was a recent study done of a number of CEOs, and almost 25%, and these were large companies, international companies for the most part, almost 25% said that they were concerned that they may not survive post this pandemic. I mean, that is crazy. Now, a lot of these companies, of course, are in the energy sector, and we know that's in the midst of disruption. But even still, there are going to be jobs there, but the way we do our jobs are going to be different. Whatever job you have now or are going to have, if you're not working right now, is going to look different 6 months from now. So one of the things that you should be getting comfortable with is this whole notion of learnability. That's one of the top soft skills of 2020. And I would hate for anybody to be turned down for an opportunity just because they don't have experience using like a simple app like Zoom or some other technology that they could have learned on their own time over an evening or a weekend. So if you have an ability to learn, make sure that others know that. Just say, listen, I don't know that the software or the process or the technology today, but trust me, I've got a track record of learning things like that very, very quickly. So start a business. Ask yourself, how can you help someone you will never meet again? Think about that. And do IP. So I like to talk about IPs. IP in the I guess the normal world stands for intellectual property. In my world, it stands for the 2 most important questions to ask anybody in any important conversation, whether that's an interview or it's with a client or just a friend or even a family member for that matter. And I stands for what's important to you, and P stands for what are your pain points. And there is no way that you are going to effectively be able to help somebody unless you know what their pain points are and the pain points that are important to them today. Not 6 months or a year down the road, because things could change on a dime, just like they did with a pandemic. The IPs of a lot of organizations today are very different than they were pre-pandemic. So this is why it's so important. So if you want to go out and meet with people and network, my advice is to go out and do IPs with them. You're going to make people feel good because you're going to get them talking about themselves. So if any of you are in job search mode or are thinking about a pivot, make sure that before you go to those interviews, you start thinking about someone's IP. And before you open your mouth, starting to sell yourself and say how grand and wonderful and terrific you are, and you've got all these event management skills and you're the best and blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that. You have to know your audience first. So effective career management is about knowing somebody's pain point and a pain point that is important to them today, and then solving it. And if you can't solve it, move on. Or maybe recommend somebody else that you think could help, because it's all about providing value. So you are more than your skills. That's one thing that we all have to get our heads around. And what that means is understanding who you are beyond your skills. So who are you? What value do you bring to a client or to an employer? And what is really important to know is that your value is the only constant. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of understanding what your value is. So your value is being able to explain to somebody how someone's life or someone's company is going to be different with you in it. And if you don't know, how in the heck is anyone else? And there's no way people are going to be able to help you or refer you or hire you unless they do know what your value is. Clients today want to hire people who know who they are and, more importantly, who they are not. And they also are hiring for value. They're no longer hiring for skills. So when you think about your value being constant, it is something that nobody will ever take away from you. It stays with you for life. A job or a client can be ripped away from you in a heartbeat. Knowing your value stays with you forever. So my advice to you is invest some time in figuring out what that value is. And this is one of the things that we emphasize in our program. So a lot of our clients complain, well, I want to make more money or whatever, I don't like my job. So what I tell them is, I said, you know what, the only way to make more money, and if you want to make more money, create value that money will pay for. So what does that mean to you? So what is your value? Are you somebody that's got a gift for making me look good? Are you going to let me sleep at night? Are you going to make me money? One of my very good friends is a senior event professional. She's been doing this forever. She's never been unemployed. For all of the ups and downs in the economy, she has had a job consistently. And she's a contractor. She works for herself. And her secret sauce, what I've realized, is that wherever she goes, whatever event she is hired to manage or to develop, her secret sauce is having the ability to expand the number of attendees, the people that will attend the event, whether it's paid or not. And she has made her clients more money through her events because she just has this gift. She's got this gift of getting into the hearts and the minds of her audience. I don't know how she does it. I wish I had that gift. But that is part of what her secret sauce is. So when she's going to market herself, she just says, listen, I know how to make you, either I can make you look good or I can make you money. I can generate revenue for you. And that's because she is so clear on what her value is. So your value is somewhat intertwined with your brand. And your brand is really getting to the core of what I call your career DNA. And it starts with asking the question, okay, well, who am I? And, we all like to laugh at this guy. And, Mr. Trump has got a very distinct brand. A lot of people don't like him, but he's got a very impactful brand. And, His brand got him elected to the most important position in government in probably the world. So we'll talk a little bit about him. One of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to connect your head to your heart. There's nobody successful in the world that doesn't make this journey. And I'm not going to say that it's an easy one, but it's the one thing that only you can give yourself permission to do. And it means to be authentic with yourself, be real, and ask yourself, what is it that I really love to do and why? What is it that makes my heart sing? What is it that gets me excited to jump out of bed? And if it is an event, ask yourself, what specifically is it about putting together a rock star event that makes me feel on fire? It makes me feel alive. What is that? And ask yourself why again and why again. And this is the secret to impactful career branding. One of the things that I like to tell our clients too is own your weirdness. What that means is never making apologies for who you are. We had a client in our program not too long ago. He was an engineer from Mexico City. And he had been working in this country for about 10 years, but he hadn't worked. I mean, he was out of work for, gosh, about a year and a half. And one of the things that he said to me, I said, I couldn't understand, like, what's going on with you, Sergio? And he said, well, nobody wants to hire a Mexican. And I said, what are you talking about? And so what it turned out in his case was that he was trying to sanitize himself from being a Mexican because he was embarrassed. And he was thinking that nobody was going to hire him if they knew where he was from. And I said, you know what, Sergio? I said, that is absolutely ridiculous. You can't change. Why would you want to worry about things that you can't change? And, you know, he said, well, it's still true. You know, nobody wants to hire somebody like me. And so what it was he was trying to fake it that he was a non-Mexican. And I said, you know, Sergio, I said, that's just ridiculous. You can't change where you're from. You can't change your parents. You can't change where you're born. You can't change your education. You can't change the color of your skin. Well, I guess unless maybe you're Michael Jackson or something. But, you know, why would you want to waste so much effort trying to be somebody that you're not? Anyway, he came into one of my classes shortly after that. And, you know, he said, Jackie, he said, I'm really sorry, but I don't think I can finish your program. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, why is that? And he said, well, I got a job. And I said, you're kidding. I said, isn't that exciting? I said, what happened? And he said, well, you know, I decided to take your advice. And I said, well, what was that? He said, well, I decided to update my LinkedIn profile and I put on there that I was from Mexico City. And you know what? It pretty much just killed me. And then he said, you know, I put on there, you know, that I was bilingual in Spanish and, you know, and all of these other things. And anyway, he got a call about 2 weeks after he had updated his profile from an engineering consulting firm that was looking for a professional engineer in Alberta that could speak Spanish. And when they found out that he was from Mexico City, they practically fell off their chairs because the reason that they were hiring this person was because they had just landed a contract, not just in Mexico, but in Mexico City. So when they realized that Sergio had experience and he had actually lived in Mexico City, knew the lay of the land, they pretty much felt that they had won the recruitment lottery. So this is an example. You guys don't ever try to be somebody that you're not. Who you are is your future talking to you. We are all different for a reason. And your job, and when it comes to career management, is to figure out what is it that distinguishes you from all the other amazing event professionals in your industry. And nobody else can do this work for you. So I just wanted to introduce a transformation process that I've pioneered over the last several years. And once again, I call this career transformation rather than transition. Now, it does not necessarily mean that you're going to pivot careers. I mean, you might, but the process is very much like taking a product to market, which most of you would probably be able to relate to being in your industry. So the first thing is transition. The second step is branding. The third is marketing. So it's very much like taking a product to market. So in this case, you are the product. So number one, you have to know who you are. What is the product, right? Number two, you have to package it up. The last thing you do is you take it to market in that order. And where most people fall apart when they are going to market for a new job or a new client or even a promotion is they race to market and they aren't ready. They don't know who they are. They don't know what it is that makes them different. They haven't packaged themselves effectively. And so when I'm talking about packaging, I'm talking about things like your LinkedIn profile, your resume, how you speak, your voicemail, how you carry yourself, how you use these tools like Zoom, for instance. And it's ensuring consistency of messaging. So if your LinkedIn profile says one thing and your resume says something different, and then you show up and you completely confuse the person that you're meeting with because they really don't get you, then you've just completely lost credibility. Now in our program, we have this thing called the Grizzly Den. So it's very similar to, say, Shark's Tank or the Dragon's Den, where we give our clients an opportunity to test their brand in front of a pilot of live decision makers that they don't know. So we are now doing these events online. So if any of you are interested in tuning in, we do them about twice a month. And because they're virtual, we can now invite more guests. So as a gift for ILEA members, I would like to extend an invitation. If you're interested, just email info@higherlanding.com afterwards, and we can send you the information. Okay, so when you're going to marketing, the one thing that I wanted to point out too is a lot of people just spit their resume all over the place on social media, playing that job lottery, crossing their fingers, hoping that they're going to get a call back. You guys, that doesn't work. That is old-fashioned job search stuff. That is in the past. And today, you have to be a lot more strategic. And when it comes to marketing, what we're really marketing is your value. So your value is being able to describe how someone's life is going to be different with you in it. So once you understand that, your target market are those companies and people that will appreciate your value, not your skills, your value. They're going to appreciate what you're bringing to them. So if you don't know what it is that you're bringing to them, it's going to be really hard to take yourself to market and compete successfully. So I just wanted to introduce to you this, I call it my career transformation model. This is essentially a change management process. And all I've done is I've adapted it to those that are managing their careers. So at the very bottom of the pyramid, you can't see it very well, but it says transition. And then we move all the way up to the stages of transformation. So this is the first step of building a brand, building a really powerful brand. So at the very bottom of the pyramid, we have survival and crisis. So what that means is that if you're going through a death, a divorce, something really serious is happening in your life, you have to find some stability in your life first. So that means if you need to get a survival job or do something that you might not really want to do, but you have to pay the bills, you go ahead and do it anyway. No one is going to judge you for it. Remember, you have to find some stability because you can't think strategically when you're in a state of crisis. Secondly, when it comes to taking yourself to market, you have to be able to do effective IPs, which means being curious about somebody else, right? You have to ask them what's important to them and what their pain points are. It is near impossible to do that when you're in a state of crisis because the only thing you're focused on in that stage is you. You're worried about you. You're not worried about anyone else. So where we start everybody is in their abilities and skills. And we do an inventory, and so I recommend you do this, of what you can do first. So what kind of skills? So you've got great education, event management skills, et cetera, et cetera. So you can't just stop there though. And this is the trap that I would say 90% plus of people get stuck in when they're taking themselves to market. And they keep spinning their resume out solely with a resume based on a bunch of hard skills. That doesn't work because it's too competitive. So you also have to look at your soft skills. So your soft skills are those things that make you you. They're part of your unique career DNA. Nobody can take them away from you, and they're really hard to train somebody to do. So we're talking about things like your personality, right? Your ability to collaborate, your ability to make people feel good, your ability to make people laugh. Those are skills that are really important to know about yourself. So for instance, people say, okay, well, why is it important that people know that I've got a sense of humor? Well, I've had a number of recruiting firms in my life, and I have yet to see anybody who has got a really good sense of humor, for instance, that isn't really smart. So already you're demonstrating value, right? And if you've got an ability to make people laugh, you're going to increase engagement wherever you go, whether that's at an event or within an organization. So then the next step is the first step where you start the process of connecting your head to your heart. And this is where we look at your interest and your passion. So what is it? What are those things that you really love to do? What is it that gets you excited to jump out of bed in the morning? What is it that gets you to lose track of time? And just because you love gardening, say, it's not that we're going to say, okay, well, maybe you should go and work at a garden center. It's got nothing to do with that. It's understanding the why behind it. So to give you an example, a lot of people don't like this passion thing, and we work with a lot of technical people that live very much on the left side of their brains. And one of them came to our program recently, and he was really bent out of shape. He had just lost his job. He had been there over 10 years, and he had a real chip on his shoulder when he came into the program. And I thought, okay, he's still hurting. So I was trying to take him up this pyramid, and I said, okay, Jim. I said, what are you really passionate about? And he said, oh, I hate that word. And it's like, okay, well, call it something different. Call it interests, hobbies. What do you like to do in your spare time? And he said, nothing. And I said, okay, well, you know, what did you do on the weekend? And he said, well, I was gardening with my wife. And I said, oh, that's interesting. So I said, you like gardening, do you? And he said, well, whoa, I didn't say that. And I said, okay, well, let me ask you a different question. I said, what is it that you like about gardening? And he said, well, I guess it's kind of interesting, or it's kind of creative, and I think it's kind of nurturing. And I said, oh, so you like nurturing, do you? And he said, whoa, I didn't say that. So I said, listen, let me ask you something different. I said, can you think of a time in your last job where you might have nurtured something where it resulted in some sort of a win? So you got to understand, this guy was a middle manager, technical manager within a large company. And so I said, can you think of a time where you might have nurtured something in that organization? And all of a sudden there was this dead silence. And I look over at him and I could see his lips start to quiver. And I thought, oh my God, now what has happened? And all of a sudden he put his head up and he said, you know, I can think. And I said, well, what? He said, when I look back at my last job, he said, everybody that worked for me went on to do greater things than I did. One became the president of this division, one became a VP, one started his own business, and the guy totally broke down in tears. And he said, I had no idea that I had any value whatsoever. And I said, well, Jim, I said, I hate to rub salt into wounds, but I said, did your boss know that about you? And he said, I don't think so. And I said, well, you know what? That wasn't their fault. That was yours. Because it is your job to make sure when you land and when you're working, that everybody around you, above you, and below you knows what your value is, because that is what you want to become the go-to person for. That is how you build a sustainable, powerful career. So once he realized that he actually had value, his whole demeanor changed. So the same thing can happen to you. So it really goes back to understanding what is it that you love to do and why. And then keep asking yourself why again and why again until you drive yourself crazy, because that's how you're going to uncover your value. Then you go to the next level of the pyramid, which is values and beliefs, and that's understanding what's important to you. The reason that is important, you guys, is because if what's important to you is not important to who you're working for or with, you're not going to be happy or successful. The next level is identity, and this is where we do a lot of work in this area on developing brands for people. It's being able to explain who you are in a word or two. It's not easy. So, you know, whether it's, you know, you're the Navy SEAL or you're the MacGyver or what have you, it's really important that you do that, because when you're selling yourself, you've got 5 seconds to do that. You don't have 5 minutes. So unless you're able to communicate your value in just a few seconds, no one's going to remember you. And remember, it's your job to make it easy for others to help you and to remember you. Anyway, the top of the pyramid is purpose, and that's helping you to get clear on what is it that you should be doing rather than what you can do. Usually what happens when people go through this process is their clarity and their confidence skyrockets. So if any of you are interested in learning more about how to brand yourself, I'm happy to, you can attend one of our branding workshops, and it's done over a 2-day period, but it's very powerful. Just wanted to touch upon, I know our time is short here, top 5 soft skills of 2020. I thought that this was rather important for you to know. Creativity, collaboration, learnability, multicultural awareness, and social skills or social perceptiveness. So just make sure that if you are in job search mode and one of these or more than one applies to you, that these show up on your resume and that you sell yourself on these traits as well. Finally, when we look at high-level trends of the future of work in 2020, we're in a time right now, you guys, you have to assume control for your own career management because nobody is going to do it for you. You're going to be rewarded for the value you bring versus how loyal you were in your last job. Not that that doesn't matter, but I'm going to hire you for what you're going to do for me, not how many years you served at your last, you did for somebody else, right? That's for them. I want to know what you're going to do for me. So career security then is also replacing job security. So this is a new trend. The only way to have career security though is to understand your value or your brand or your secret sauce, as I call it, because that is something nobody will ever take away from you. A job will be ripped away from you in a second. Knowing your value stays with you for life. That's why it's so important that you invest some time in figuring out what that is and be able to explain that to somebody in 5 seconds. We're also seeing a lot more discontinuous career paths, more people working on contract, freelancing, solopreneurs. No, there are no more jobs for life, let's face it. Innovation is also replacing a lot more jobs, and you have to be able to demonstrate learnability and your soft skills. You might get an interview for a hard skill, but you're going to be hired for a soft one. And this is probably one of the best times in history to create your own job. In our Grizzly Den, so if you're interested in learning more about it, you can go onto our website and look at the Grizzly Den tabs. I think there are a few videos there so you can see what they're like. A lot of our Grizzlies have actually hired our clients. And usually when they do, they're for jobs that don't exist because the person has done such a great job of explaining what their value is, they have a job created for them. So your career is your business. My advice to you is manage it like a CEO, follow some of these tools. If any of you are interested, and then I know we have to go, we do have a 10-week boot camp that you might be interested in. We did a pilot over the summer and had absolutely outstanding success. It's a way for you to build your brand, understand your value, and then actually go to market in this 10-week period of time. So a number of our clients have already landed and in this post-COVID time. Some of them have pivoted, some of them have done completely new career pivots, and others have stayed in their old jobs. So the point is that career management techniques have changed, so we teach you about that as well. And then you could see a few more of our workshops on our website. Emerging sectors is a great one because it also includes an aptitude test. I thought that might be relevant for you. And then if you wanted, you could just take a workshop called Knowing Your Brand. Okay, that is it. Any questions?
Wow, Jackie, oh my gosh, that was incredible.
Like, it's hard to squeeze so much in a short period of time, so I'm sure that
you did a great job. We do have a few questions lined up here, so let's get right into it so we can get to as many of them as we possibly can. So I'm just going to start with this one. How can you know people's pain points if it's a net new conversation or contact?
You gotta practice. So in our workshops, we practice with each other. So understanding someone's pain points, it's just like, okay, Dustin, we've never met. So what's happening? Let's just you and I do one. So sure. What's happening, Dustin?
Well, I'm enjoying my first summer off in my entire working career. There is a lot of pain in my business right now and a lot of pain in my industry. I'm trying to be as optimistic as I possibly can.
So what would you say is keeping you up at night mostly then?
Money.
Money. So do you have any revenue sources coming in right now?
Very, very little. I have a fraction of what I would usually have.
And so on a scale of 1 to 10, getting back to work, say next month, how important would that be for you?
Based on reality, I would say it's a 10 for sure, but I'm also aware that that's not the reality.
Okay, so that's, you would say, it's vitally important to you 100%. Right now then. So all of your efforts should be going in there. Okay, well, you're gonna have to attend our boot camp first of all. Just kidding.
I will, I'm in.
So you guys, doing an IP can just be, you know, expressing curiosity. So curiosity is a key part of doing an IP, but curiosity is 50% about asking the right questions and 50% about actually caring about the answer. So there, you know, what are your priorities over the next few months? What does success look like to you? And honestly, the best way to start an IP, what's happening? How are you? Great way to start. I could go on and on, but
yeah,
I've got
no, that's great. No, it totally makes sense. No, it is wonderful. I think too, I think we're all, you know, we need to, as event professionals, and I think every industry is going through this, we need to get out of the trap of the moaning and groaning, and we need to dig a little bit deeper into our conversations. And so I think that is really wonderful, because I think we're all giving the same answers to questions like that. And there is, you know, an expectation that should be the answer that you're giving. So yeah. I really love that.
When people are going to market or looking for a job, they get confused and they go into it with this mindset of desperation. Oh my God, what is going to happen if I don't get this job? That comes through. That is very transparent, rather than just going into it. So I call that a job seeker's mentality. Oh my God, it's all about me. I have to get this job or else my wife's going to shoot me or whatever. And you know, that's the wrong approach to take. So there's a lot of psychology in this. Rather than do that, go into any meeting, whether it's an interview or a coffee conversation or whatever, just with the curiosity of wondering, hey, listen, I just want to know if I can help you. So Dustin, tell me what's going on, what's happening. I don't know if I can work with you yet, because I don't know what your IP is. Now, if there is a pain point that I can help solve for you, then yeah, let's have a conversation. But if I can't, then you walk away.
That's great. Next question. What are the best ways to present your soft skills and interest passions before you meet a person with a potential employer, if it's not on a resume?
So that's about building your brand. And so the work that we do is we do a lot of work on social media. And so I wouldn't educate someone about your passions, because they might not give a hoot. But what they will give a hoot about is your value. Right. So, you know, tell me what your value is. So blogging is a fabulous way to illustrate your value. We talk about, you know, how can you get the attention of your target audience, so potential employers, before they meet you. So you have to have a strong online profile. Blogging is a fabulous way to do it. You can go to speak at events. All of you here today are building fabulous brands. You're putting the fact that you are members of ILEA on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile. When you have conversations with others, I mean, this is all part of building your value. You're telling me that you care about others. You're building community. So that's collaboration. It's one of the top 5 soft skills of 2020.
That's great. Since you mentioned LinkedIn, we'll obviously encourage everybody to post on LinkedIn that you were on this amazing webinar today.
Yes, and please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn too.
For sure. Evan's asking, do you have any good tips to make LinkedIn profiles stand out from others?
It's all about your value. So forget about your hard skill. I don't want to say forget about it. So when you are putting an effective LinkedIn profile together, take that pyramid and make sure that every level of that pyramid is included in your profile paragraph. So when we teach how to do LinkedIn, the top words on your LinkedIn profile should be your branding words. We call these your wow factors. And they're words they're like 3 words that would best describe you on the basis of your top skill, your passion, and your value to someone. And it's really hard to come up with, but I'll tell you, it's worth its weight in gold.
So then those words would filter into that quick conversation that you're having when you talk about who you are.
Hi, Dustin. You know, so when we take people to market too, and this is part of what we teach you to do, you know, we'll call up. So we help you to identify a target market of decision makers, and then we'll either connect with them on LinkedIn, or we'll call them up and we'll say, you know, hi, Dustin. We've never met, but I've got somebody that I think you really need to meet. And you say, well, who's that? And I said, well, he's the Navy SEAL. Yeah, he's a professional events person or whatever, but I call him the Navy SEAL. Honest to God, you have got to meet him. You've never seen somebody as daring and as smart and as accurate and as precise and as courageous as this. This guy does events better than anyone I have ever seen.
Done. Hired. I love him.
Want to meet him?
Yeah, you're offering up a Navy SEAL. I'm not tearing that down. That's great. I love that. I'm not sure how to break into this one, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Can you speak to age? I am 60 years old.
So there is, once again, I don't care how old or how young you are, it's about your value. There's value that somebody at that age has that somebody at 20 does not. And so if you make age an issue, it's going to be an issue. So you shouldn't be leading with it. Once again, it keeps going back to your value. So, you know, what do you have a great track record of doing? How will my life be different if I hire you? And it's probably going to be different if I hire you versus somebody at 20. You know, what are you going to do? Can you mentor people? Are you going to, you know, create a sustainable workforce? What are those things that you're going to do for me?
That's wonderful. Love that. Paula, I'm just going to ask you to throw up the slide that has the soft skills for 2020 again. Sure. And then I'm going to ask you another question. There you go. Great. Here we go. This is a great question because I think these words are going to come up a lot in our community. It's creativity, collaboration, learnability, multicultural awareness, social skills, and perceptiveness. Are those good? Like, is that the kind of words that we're looking for? So creativity. Think about what people are being hired to do now. They're being paid to innovate, to think out of the box, right? So however you want, I mean, don't use these words. I mean, if you want, go ahead. No one's going to know that you've necessarily just attended this. And Jackie said that these words should be on your resume. But you know, what kind of creativity? Creativity comes in different shapes and colors, right? So do you have an ability to think out of the box? Are you a drawer, right? Are you artistic? Collaboration, the ability to work together. I mean, you guys are all collaborating now. You've collaborated with ILEA to develop a community of hundreds, if not thousands, of people, right? That is important. So when you think of industries that have grown exponentially through collaboration and through using what I call the crowd. Think of anything social media related. So LinkedIn, Facebook, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing. Who would have ever thought 10 years ago that it would be legal to raise money online in 2020? Never would have thought about that. So learnability, I've already explained that. If you have a successful track record of learning things quickly, then put that on your resume. But I'm going to tell you, don't put any of these things on your resume unless they are true. Because the first thing somebody's going to ask you is, okay, so great, Dustin, so you say learnability. Give me an example. So my advice to you is to invest your time and effort into learning new things, whether they're software packages or new languages or whatever. But one thing when it comes to learning, you guys, I can't begin to stress this enough. If you are considering a pivot and you're considering upskilling, please make sure that you understand your value first, and then take courses or programs that will further amplify that value, not dilute it. So if you're a Navy SEAL, why in the world would you want to take some data analytics thing? Navy SEALs are going to be paid to go to the front lines, make stuff happen, you know, change agent, I'm not afraid, rather than go and sit in a corner and counting widgets with the door closed. That's not going to be very good. So that's going to be a complete waste of their time. So learnability is really important. So go out and seek opportunities to learn, whether you pay for them or you learn on your own, or even you can learn through volunteering. But make sure that you're seeking things that will further amplify that value. Multicultural awareness. There isn't any class that I've taught in the past 5 years that hasn't had at least 30% of people that were not born in this country in it. Right, so we're living, and plus on top of it now with COVID, you know, the opportunity has presented a huge number of virtual jobs, because we've proven that we can work virtually a lot better. You better be able to relate to other cultures and other people, right? The way that they think, their habits, all that kind of thing. So that's just the way that the world is going. And social skills, social perceptiveness, these are things that you cannot teach a computer to do. That's great. We're going over just a little bit. We love to respect everybody's time, but I feel like there's 2 more questions I want to get out. So if you can hang in there with us, that would be great. So when creating your value, is it important to mention meeting designations or degrees? And is one more valuable than the other in this environment? So let's talk about designations, degrees, all those letters that go after your name.
For sure. So that's part of your hard, those are your hard skills for sure. I mean, you know, those will give you permission to play, right? Those will probably get your foot in the door, but are they going to get you a job? Probably not. It's going to be a soft skill that will. So tell me how you're going to apply that degree or designation. Don't hide anything, you guys. It's just like Sergio, the Mexican engineer I was telling you about. Do not dumb down anything. You should be proud of who you are. You cannot change that, right? We were all put here for a reason. And it's time to own your weirdness, not hide it.
Gotcha.
So be your authentic self.
Got you. So if you're a CACP, which is ILEA's designation, you're recommending that, you know, saying you're a CACP is great, but what does that mean to the person you're talking
exactly
to? What skills have been provided to you through that, right, and why does that stand out?
It shows me that you have invested time in something that obviously is important to you. Okay, but now how are you going to make that important to me?
Awesome, great. New CACP exam launching this fall, just throwing that out there. One final question for you. Do you recommend taking assessments like Gallup, StrengthsFinder, DISC, or Myers-Briggs?
Yeah, so, you know, with any assessment, you know, don't give all your power away to it. You have to take those assessments with a grain of salt. Yes, they might give you further ammunition to build your brand. So we've used StrengthsFinder. Sometimes a StrengthsFinder will help you understand your strengths, right? So what is it that you're really naturally gifted for? But is that going to get you a job? No. What are you going to do with it? Mm-hmm. So it might say, okay, well, one of my strengths is collaborate or creativity. Okay, I know that. But what are you going to do for me? Okay, well, I'm going to solve your problems better than anyone else because I've got this ability to think out of the box. I can solve the impossible because of my ability my creative ability.
That is amazing. We're going to wrap it right there, Jackie. Thank you so much for all of this. I don't think I've ever seen so much activity and chat in the chat box and LinkedIn posts, and my phone's blowing up with lots of colleagues that have taken a lot out of this. So we really appreciate all of this, the thoughtfulness and the energy you brought to this, which is incredible. I'm actually feeling quite fired up. So thank you for that. A big thank you to Giants Enterprises for always supporting us and supporting this webinar and so many more. Don't forget about our webinar on Monday with the Live Events Coalition. It's going to be an amazing conversation. We're really excited about it. Huge thank you to our ILEA team for always taking care of us and making sure these things run smoothly. We went over a little bit. You know, we love to respect your time, so thank you for hanging in there with us. We will make sure that all the resources that were mentioned get out to you in the next couple days. Big thank you to my partner in crime, Lisa, for organizing this. And we hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful rest of their day and weekend. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Jackie. Really.
Bye-bye. Thank you
so
all.
much.
It's been an honor.
Bye, everyone.